Okay, Mike in Kansas got your new Stryker here. This is the Plus version, it's the newest version. So when I did the initial test video last week, I think I might have skewed the sideband test. Well, I know I did, because when I retested that radio later, I found that the results were different, and that's normal because I had something skewed on my equipment or something. So sometimes, when you're excited about things, you may overlook certain things, and maybe an apology is granted there, but I don't think that too many guys really pay too close attention to that kind of stuff anyways. And if you do, just know that this radio is going to be along the lines of like the Quad 6 Pro and the QT80 in regards to the third order intercept, and what we'd see on the spectrum analyzer when I do the test. So it's not bad or anything, but out of the factory it's not that great. It's only about 14 or 15, which isn't really that good. So the good thing about it is with this radio, having that extra board in there, it actually cleans up the performance a lot. So what you don't get on like your QT60 or Quad 5N2 or the short versions, QT60 Pro, you don't really get that opportunity at that point to really improve it a ton. Like, you can improve it, and I always do, but we're talking about going from like a 14 or 15 up to like a 17 or maybe 18. So this radio will go from like a 14 to 15 up to like a 24, almost 25, and you can actually go more. But I find that to keep the power about where it should be, going more, a lot of guys buy these radios, I think, because of the power. So there's always going to be that side of the hobby where power is the most important thing, and I have to kind of balance, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to make it ultra clean or make it super clean? And I use ultra because I think ultra means more than super. I don't know. I think people know what I'm saying, but you don't want to sacrifice power, and I get that part of it too. So anyhow, I'm just going to kind of give you a brief of what to see here on sideband. So again, you're not going to see that full deflection of the SRF meter when you're talking on sideband. And that's normal with all these radios. They haven't ever changed that. That's one thing I kind of wish they would change, but apparently that's not on the cards or something. So all these radios do it. Doesn't matter really which one you get, Quad 6 Pro, QT80, whatever. So when we speak into the mic, though, on a real power meter, not just something that is highly popular and sometimes almost cost as much as this meter does, but they look good, but they don't give you any performance. You won't see anything close to this power. So if you understand that and know that, then you're going into it a step ahead of everybody else. So I think this is in the 3K setting right now. So let me go in and change it. I have to get out of version 2 to see on the version 2. Can you do this? Or I think on the version 2 you have to, I believe that you have to use the button the whole time to cycle through the menu. So we'll go up to 4. Let's see if we can see the difference here. This is just a really poor test for this, but we'll see if it does change. So each one of these boxes here, from here to here, that's 2 kilohertz. So technically we should be somewhere taking up 2 full boxes bandwidth on TX now, I'm assuming, but we won't know until we see. So 1 2 3 4 5, check 1 2 1 2 3 4 5. So it does a little bit go into that next box and kind of fill it up some. So I would say probably that it works. There's better ways to test it, and of course I could do that, but I just don't want to do it right now because it's very time consuming and it's not really beneficial to what we want to do. Now I will say, when you have it adjusted like this, you will have a more higher emphasis on your audio. It will be more like higher, like punchy, more treble, maybe more mids as well. So if you put it down into the 2K, I believe it's going to get more monotone and bassy. So if you want your radio to sound like that, that's probably going to be the way to do it. So let's take a look now and see. Hello CQ, hello CQ, CQ. So it does work, although, you know, I can see a little bit of the signal going off into the next box, but not much. So, you know, if you want that more, like, I guess this might be for like the rag chew or something, you know, you want more of a bassy sound or whatever have you out of your radio. Of course, microphone, you know, whatever type of mic you use, and if you're using equalization after the fact, then that all changes. But this is a good example, I guess, of what to expect. And again, it doesn't change your power or anything like that, so, you know, we're still going to do the same power regardless. So that's pretty much that. I'm assuming that's only beneficial for sideband, and when we're in AM we have a carrier, so it's not going to be very beneficial. It might change the way your modulation sounds a little bit. I usually set it to about 3. You can play with it if you want to later, but that's my recommendation, is about 3 is a good level. If we go to AM, I'm just trying to look at the carrier here and see. Okay, see how it's looking in 3. Is there a way that I can I don't think there's a freeze on this where I can freeze the picture. I would have to do a trace and all that, and I don't want to do all that right now. I'm just kind of raw testing here, showing whatever. So let's go to 2. Yeah, it does. It definitely, I think it definitely changes it. So 1 2 3 1 2 3 hello radio, 1 2 3 1 2 3 hello, check 1 2 check 1 2 hello. So I think it does actually play into AM also. So again, there's better ways to do this too. So let's go up to 4. One, two, three, 1 2 3 hello. So now you're gonna have 4 on each side. Because, you know, you have 8 kilohertz of bandwidth now. And honestly, that might be a little too much bandwidth. I think that's gonna maybe make you start to bleed over a little bit, just because you're occupying too much bandwidth. You can see on the far edges there, as we go into, that's the center of the next channel if we're talking about the channelized band. 28410 would be in this situation, but and we're at 28400, so 10K up. You can see there, I mean, it's at 0 dBm, maybe just a hair over that, so it's not going to be horrible, but my recommendation wouldn't be to run it that wide. Go back to 2 and just see 1 2 3 1 2 3 check 1 2 check 1 2 3 1 2 3. It doesn't make a huge difference, but you know, I can see a little less occupied bandwidth. So there's, like I said, there's better ways to test this, and using like white noise and stuff would be the more ideal way to do it. Voice is a little misconstruing because your voice has different amplitudes and all that stuff, but enough playing around with that. I'm going to put it back to the 3K for both, and carrier on this is about 25. It's about 25. So it's picking up noise. I'm running this mic and it's picking up noise through the mic. So about 25, and then on AM it's going to swing up there pretty much 100. So it's a 100-watt radio. It's not over mod or anything like that. So, you know, it's set up the way I always set up these radios, about 96% on the low power tone for AM, and also about 96% on the high power tone on AM. So that's on that band. Just go through this really quick. I did give you the UK FM band on band 1. It's the 25 megahertz band. I don't think too many are using that. If you don't like it, just reset the radio and it'll go away. So you have the 40 channel band. The only thing you're missing here is the 5, and there's a way to do that. I'm going to release another video at a certain point for a customer in Ireland that bought one of these from me, and I did show how to do it. It's very easy to get it to transmit also on that 125, because all their frequencies end in 125, and the 5 doesn't show up on this radio, nor does it let you program it into the PC software. So it's something I think they should work on, and maybe have the factory redesign the software to allow that, because this will be a popular radio in Europe. There's a lot of guys that are showing interest in it. So, you know, I guess the guys that would use the FM band would probably like that, and make it easier to do for themselves instead of, you know, having me to do it or whatnot. Some guys might enjoy just doing it themselves and programming it into the software. So make it more accessible. I think it would be better for everybody. Here, obviously, here's this band. It's all there. So nothing's really going to change power-wise. If anything, it probably will do better on this band. So, you know, 1 2 3 4 5, check 1 2, not by much, but, you know, again, it does maybe do slightly better. So, and then SSB 1 2 3 4 5, check 1 2, 1 2 3 4 5, check 1 2. So you can notice you're doing a little less power. Again, that's better in the grand scheme of things. It's a cleaner signal. I'm going to plug in the two-tone now. We'll just take a quick look at that so I can show you guys the actual difference between originally what I thought, which was just crazy, and I had to think about that again after I posted that video. Like, man, why is that radio so much cleaner than everything else? I just didn't think it would be possible. And then when I did a second look and did a retest, then obviously it was about the same as the, you know, the Quad 6 Pro QT80, which is not bad by any means, but, you know, there's just certain things that when you take a second look, maybe you catch things that first you may have overlooked. So again, I need to go back and watch my own video and maybe see if I can see something that I did wrong. Okay, this is the two-tone test here. So we can see it's showing about 30 something on the meter here, showing about 46 here. So it's not very accurate on the radio regardless, but that's how it looks on the two-tone. Looks really nice. So the numbers are pretty much matching up there for the most part. We're gonna go here. Whoops, wrong one. Here and here. No, it's about 24, and that's the reality of it. It's about 24. Excuse me. I can make it better, but you will see a little less top-end power of the radio. So it's much better than the version 2. It's much better than the QT60 Pro, the QT60, the Quad 5N2, Quad 5N2 Short. It's the same as, you know, your Aries, not your Aries, but your Quad 6 Pro and QT80. So expect about the same, you know, linearity performance, which is outstanding on all these radios. So this has the same, the Washington by President, the same. So it's basically the same type of sideband performance. It's going to sound excellent on the air, nice and clean. Obviously, after the fact, if you put some type of amp into the equation, then everything changes. So just realize that you know, you can have the best radio and cleanest radio in the world, but if you put some unknown amp after the fact, then every amplifier has its own characteristics that have to be accounted for. And some amps are much better than others, hence the reason why they can cost thousands and thousands of dollars. And then other amps are just built for, you know, for pure power, and they disregard a lot of other things that could be important. So, you know, it depends on how far you want to go in the hobby. I'm not a big amp person. I don't really care about amps. They're not my thing. So it's just one of those things. I'd rather try to work contacts and do things with less, like hook up a radio and just use it and see what you can do. That's what I'm about. whether it's 100 watts, 20 watts, 5 watts, whatever. If that's all I have at that given point in time, I'm going to try to make it work. And right now I'm using antennas that are like 5 feet off the ground, and I'm doing well. I can't believe sometimes how well I do. I was talking to my buddy in California yesterday on 10 meter, and literally I could hear him better on my Mosley TA53M 5 feet off the ground than I could hear him on my Shooting Star by Mako that's 60 some feet up in the air. But again, that's not designed for 10 meter the way I have it set up. It's a CB antenna, so there's differences there too, but understanding what we have to work with can help us sometimes. And that 5 feet off the ground that's designed for those frequencies really made a difference on the receiver side. I could hear him with less signal but more clarity on that HF antenna than I could on the Mako that's designed for like 27.2 or something, or 27.38, and we were at like 28.43. So there's a big difference there. Antenna also can make a huge difference. You know, power amplifier, not so big a deal. Antenna, big difference. You know, use the antenna for the frequency that you're on. Try to use a monoband antenna if you can, or an antenna that can be multiple bands but still have resonance in each band that it works with, where you don't have to use an antenna tuner, because I'll be honest, those are not a magic fix for anything. And you know, antenna tuners are basically just, they make your radio feel good and happy, because they kind of filter out some of that reflected power coming back, but it doesn't change one thing at, you know, your antenna. So there's a lot of other variables in play. But I've done well with so far with that antenna. I've made a lot of contacts 5 feet off the ground pointing west, and I've worked Europe multiple times going the long path on it, and it's pretty exciting. And I've done it on one of these that I kept for myself. I've done it on QT60 Pros, QT80s. I've done it on all these type of 10 meter radios on the 10 meter band. So I've done it on 12 meter on some of these radios. I've done it on 15 on the QT60 or QT80 and Quad 6 Pro. So I've done it all, and it's fun to do it on just more basic radios that some guys would say, oh, I wouldn't use that on HF. Well, you can use it. I mean, they work, and they work well. So the days of, you know, these are just junk CB radios that are high power, and those days are over. You can literally use this as a glorified HF radio if that's all you want to use it as, and it's going to work well for what you want to do. Obviously, it doesn't have like the smooth VFO where it's just like this, where you can just sit here and go like this and stuff, and it's not going to have some more advanced things like an IF out for an SDR, and you know, a PTT key line for a real HF amp. It's not going to have certain things. So, you know, if you understand what the radio has and you use it to its full capacity, you can still have fun on any radio that somebody puts in front of you. At least I can. So that's all I'm trying to say here. You know, understand what you have, try to maximize it performance wise, which I've pretty much done, and then just learn the basics of it, learn how to use it. You know, if you go on the VFO, there's certain things you can do. Like right now it's set for probably like this was what most would use, but and then like here. But if you want to use it on the HF bands, then I would recommend putting this to like 1K and put this maybe to 100 Hertz. That way you can change this one with this and this one with this, because you're going to find that people are operating outside of just the normal zeros or whatever. You know, they're going to be operating sometimes with this as like a 4 or a 6. It just, wherever they end up is where they end up. So also, to move through the VFO faster, you can go here and whoop, I'm going to hold that down and make that 1 megahertz. So now we can go here, and now you can see the radio goes to 24, and then we can change it. It's a little, you know, you have to do some few things to it to make it do what you want, but it's very usable as long as you understand how to use it. So here's 12 meter. So I'll change that back again. Just do that really quick. Okay, now we're pretty much in the band, in the voice part of it. and I would go 1K and 100 hertz. Now that's gonna whoop. Nope. There we go. Now it's gonna let me do this. Tune around until I hear somebody talking, and if they're not slightly there, just do this and you can turn it. And it's a free spinning VFO, so it'll just keep going. If you take it, it just goes. If they're slightly off freak, then you can still do this, but most guys never will be, so that's really a non-factor. You can also unlock this to do R and T together if that's what you wanted, so you could go a little bit slower, and you could see it here in the hertz option as well. So it's a pretty feature-packed radio. I mean, a lot of this stuff is the same from the version 2. I think probably the version 1 also. So, you know, maybe I'm just wasting my breath here because I don't know too many guys that would actually use this radio on the amateur bands, but I know I would. If it's in front of me, I'm going to use it. But anyhow, here's the power on 12 meter. So this is SSB, so it pretty much does the full power, just like you would expect it to, you know, just like the other radios do. So we're not really losing any power here or anything like that. We really wouldn't use AM here, although I've seen a couple people that do use AM. There's one guy out there that he's running some radio. He says, I'm plate modulated, and he's on AM, and he's taking up like 8 kcs on the amateur bands, and he sounds good, but man, it's a dirty signal. So I don't understand all that, but I've talked to him. He's a nice guy and stuff. So maybe some of you guys that are into HF have heard him out there. I don't know. I think he's out in Wyoming or Colorado or something, but anyhow, if you don't want it to VFO, just get out of it. You can select your bands like this, and you're in the 40 channel banks. And the only other thing to cover is the radio doesn't get very hot. I mean, it will get hot, but it's a bigger case. It has the vents, more vents because it's wider. It has the big honking heatsink on the back, so you know, as far as that goes, this is going to be where all your heat builds up, which is fine. Just don't, if you put this in a vehicle or something, make sure that this isn't like enclosed in a area where it can't allow the heat to move away and dissipate away, because what will happen then is you could end up probably maybe, I don't know, overheating, because this gets extremely hot and it needs to have airflow. I'm not saying you need to put a fan on it. I wouldn't go through the trouble of putting a fan on one of these. I don't think it's necessary. You got a huge heat sink here, where on the other radios you have a heat sink, but it's more encased on some of the other radios where the heat sink is built into the back. See, like on this radio, you know, you have a heat sink, and it's a nice big heat sink, but it's built right into the back. So what happens is this whole thing gets extremely hot. This is a Quad 6 Pro here, so the difference is this one, it's basically just here, right at the PA, where the PA is, and then, you know, it's much bigger and chunkier, so it allows the radio to cool much faster. That's the only difference. So I wouldn't say you need a fan on this. Don't bury this in, like, you know, somewhere where it's mounted and it can't allow the heat to dissipate off. You know, this will do what it's supposed to do on its own. You don't have to do anything more to it. I see a lot of guys running fans on these, because there's multiple people now that are building like fans for them and stuff that bolt onto the back. I still haven't personally ran a fan on mine. I bought the kit off eBay. I've never even used it. I've used one of these in the car for quite some time. I don't know how hot it got, because I didn't really care. I never really tried to reach down and check it. I'm sure it got hot. I haven't ever had one fail from heat, so I don't worry too much about it, but you know, a lot of guys worry about that stuff. So all I'm saying is, you know, these definitely do get hot. I felt them get hot and stuff on the testing, but I've never had one fail due to heat. So you can take whatever you want from that. But this radio, I've gotten it hot, but then again, it's basically just super hot at the heat sink, which is how it's supposed to be. So a couple of changes, differences between radios. You guys are the ones that, you know, might use these radios more often than I would. I'm not on the radio that much, so the users of the radios are going to make their own assumptions and opinions on everything. That's how it is. That's how it's always been. I'm just some dummy here that likes to talk into a camera and show testing and you know, stuff like that. So I'll let the radio community kind of decide on what's good, what's bad, whatever, and I'm just here to kind of show things in a more positive spotlight and show some testing. So that's pretty much it for you, and we'll get this one heading out to you Monday. 73, and Happy New Year.